Before we speak of strength, let us pause, inhaler, exhaler. Now we begin. When people speak of strength, they often picture muscles, force, the ability to conquer. But real strength, true strength, cannot be seen in the mirror or measured by how loud you are in a room. True strength is silent, it is still, and it is forged not in comfort, but in challenge. We must ask, what does it mean to be truly strong? It is the strength to choose discipline over desire, to remain calm when chaos surrounds you, to carry pain without passing it on to others. In life, you will face storms. You cannot always control them, but you can control how you stand within them. So I offer you 4 truths, 4 markers of real strength, not for the body, but for the soul. In life, we are often taught to shape our surroundings, to plan, to prepare, to pursue goals with relentless determination. But no matter how carefully we plan, life remains unpredictable. Storms arrive without warning, relationships shift without our consent, and events unfold beyond the reach of our will. If our strength is tied only to how much we can control, then we become fragile the moment control is lost. True strength, however, lies not in domination of the external, but in the stillness of the internal. It is found in how we respond when the world does not bend to our expectations. Reaction is where the true self is revealed. A person may appear strong when things go according to plan, but the real test is in how they respond when everything falls apart. Do they lose their center, or do they breathe deeper and return to the present moment? Mastery of reaction requires deep awareness. It requires space between stimulus and response, a space created by discipline, by training the mind not to follow every impulse. In this space, strength is born, and that strength is quiet. It does not shout, it listens. You do not control the weather, but you can choose whether you walk through the rain with resistance or with acceptance. This does not mean passivity, it means clarity. A calm mind is not indifferent, it is precise. It sees what can be done and does it, but it does not waste energy on what cannot be changed. Many confuse anxiety for care and anger for strength, but the one who remains still in the storm is the one most able to act wisely. Mastery of reaction transforms chaos into clarity. This kind of strength is not built overnight. It must be cultivated like a garden, consistently, patiently, without rushing. Each time we catch ourselves before reacting with anger, each time we pause instead of defending our ego, we strengthen the roots of our inner foundation. Over time, we stop reacting out of habit and start responding out of awareness. That is the moment when we are no longer slaves to circumstance. We become free, not because the world has changed, but because we have. There is a saying, you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. This is not just poetic, it is a principle of inner mastery. When you realize that your peace does not depend on what happens to you, but how you meet it, you reclaim your power. Reaction becomes choice. And choice, when it arises from presence and not from fear, is the true mark of strength. So while the world may remain uncertain, the one who has mastered their response walks through it with certainty, not in outcomes, but in themselves. Discipline is often misunderstood. To many, it sounds rigid, like a life drained of spontaneity or joy. But in truth, discipline is not the absence of freedom. It is the path to real freedom. The undisciplined mind is pulled constantly by urges, impulses, distractions. It is like a leaf in the wind, going wherever the breeze pushes. Discipline, by contrast, is rooted. It allows a person to move deliberately, to act by choice rather than compulsion. And this is where its quiet power lies. Strength does not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it reveals itself in the slow, steady decisions we make when no one else is watching. To choose what is right over what is easy is an act of strength. But that choice is rarely dramatic. It happens in subtle, daily moments, waking before dawn to train while the world sleeps, putting the phone down to sit in stillness, returning again and again to a practice that offers no immediate reward. These are small acts, but when done with consistency, they become a force. Just as water, drop by drop, can carve through stone, so too does discipline shape character over time. It teaches the mind to endure discomfort, to lean into repetition, to trust the process even when results are invisible. In a culture addicted to speed and immediate gratification, discipline is radical. It asks us to slow down, to repeat the same motions without needing recognition, to hold a posture a little longer, to listen a little deeper, to breathe before we react. These are not heroic acts in the eyes of the world, but they are heroic in the inner world. Strength gained through discipline is slow, but it is stable. It does not collapse under pressure because it has been tested quietly over time in the solitude of practice. True discipline is not fueled by punishment, but by devotion. It does not come from forcing the self, but from aligning with something deeper, an inner compass that knows what is necessary. The disciplined individual is not cold or robotic, they are deeply alive. Their actions come from clarity, not chaos. They understand that to master anything, including themselves, requires repetition, patience, and the willingness to fail and begin again. In this way, discipline becomes a form of respect, not only for the path, but for the person you are becoming by walking it. And so, discipline becomes strength in slow motion. It does not seek applause. It does not need to be seen. But with each small intentional step, it builds a foundation that does not crumble. This is the kind of strength that endures when excitement fades, when others give up, when the journey grows quiet. It is not forged in a single moment of intensity, but in the return to practice, to breath, to purpose. And in that return, strength quietly, inevitably takes root. There is a kind of struggle that no one sees. It happens in silence behind the surface of a composed face. It's not the battle for a trophy, not the race to a finish line, and not the fight for recognition. It is the quiet endurance of emotional pain, fear, loss, failure, the internal storms that sweep through the human spirit. To withstand these storms without collapsing, without giving in to bitterness or self-pity, requires a strength far beyond physical force. Outer victories may impress the world, but inner endurance is what forges the soul. It is one thing to lift heavy weight in the gym or to defeat an opponent in competition. These require effort, yes, but effort that is focused, time-bound, and often celebrated. The inner storms are different. They arrive without permission, stay longer than welcome, and often bring no applause when endured. These are the moments when we wake with anxiety in our chest, when doubt whispers that we're not enough, when grief lingers in the background of our day. To continue walking through life carrying such burdens without becoming hardened or hopeless is a deep, hidden form of strength. Endurance is not the absence of suffering. It is the decision to face suffering without collapsing into it. It means feeling everything fully, allowing the pain to move through us, but not allowing it to define us. This strength is not flashy. It's quiet, even invisible to others. But those who have endured know it. They carry a different kind of presence, grounded, humble, unshaken by minor inconveniences because they have survived much more. They have built their inner structure not on comfort, but on resilience. We often believe that to be strong, we must overcome everything. But sometimes real strength lies in allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to admit this hurts, and yet still show up to life with integrity. Not every wound needs to be hidden. Not every scar needs to be healed before we move forward. The strongest people are not the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who walk through it with their eyes open, their hearts intact, and their actions still rooted in kindness and clarity. In this way, endurance becomes its own kind of victory, not loud or public, but deeply meaningful. While outer victories are fleeting and often dependent on competition, that is the number R, the endurance of inner storms is something no one can take away from you. It is earned in solitude. It becomes part of your character. And it teaches you that no matter what the world brings, you have within you the capacity not just to survive, but to remain whole. It is easy to be kind when life is easy. When people treat us well, when our needs are met, when we feel seen and respected, kindness flows without effort. But that kind of kindness does not require much strength. The true test comes when kindness is offered in moments when it is most difficult, when we are tired, angry, hurt, or misunderstood. To choose compassion instead of retaliation, to offer softness when the world has been hard to you, is a quiet act of power, not weakness, power, because it takes inner mastery to respond with grace when every part of you wants to strike back. There is a misconception that kindness is passive, that it belongs to those who are afraid of conflict or lack assertiveness. But the truth is the opposite. Kindness, when it is conscious and deliberate, is a powerful act of restraint. It requires the ability to feel an emotional wave rising, rage, resentment, judgment, and to pause, to breathe, to choose a response that does not contribute to the cycle of harm. This is not avoidance. It is awareness, and awareness is what separates reaction from wisdom. Anyone can react. Only the strong can choose to pause. When someone insults you, disrespects you, or speaks in anger, the easier response is to mirror that energy. The harder and far more courageous act is to remain grounded, not because you are afraid to speak up, but because you know that how you respond defines the energy you carry. To respond with kindness in such moments does not mean approval or submission. It means you are unwilling to let another person's pain dictate your behavior. You remain rooted in your own values, and that too is strength. Kindness is also not always soft in tone. It can be firm. It can say no with clarity and still hold respect. It can establish boundaries without needing to destroy another person's dignity. In this way, kindness becomes more than just polite behavior. It becomes a discipline of the heart. It requires emotional maturity, humility, and the willingness to see beyond another person's behavior to the suffering that may lie beneath it. And in doing so, you do not just preserve your own peace. You often become a mirror through which others can see themselves more clearly. Those who live with true strength do not need to overpower others to feel strong. Their confidence is not threatened by another's voice. Their sense of self is not built on comparison or dominance. Because of this, they can offer kindness freely, not to win approval, not to appear moral, but because it reflects their inner stability. It is a strength refined through suffering, shaped by discipline and expressed through choice. And in a world that often rewards the loudest, the sharpest, the quickest to strike, choosing kindness becomes one of the most radical, powerful acts there is.